Good morning dear students, welcome to today's CVS 1 class. So we are in lesson 10, that is animal behavior, and we have already studied some of the characteristics which make the animals different from one another. So continuing on the same topic, today we are going to discuss the factors on which animals behavior vary from one another. So we are going to basically study about the variations in the animal behavior, and we'll discuss the factors on which their behavior varies from one another. So let's start. Okay, so at the end of today's class you will be able to recognize the variations in animal behavior, and these are some of the keywords which may come across while discussing the topic. So these are behavior, leaders, clan, herd, flock, area marking, migration, hibernation. So these are some of the keywords which we will discuss, which will come across while discussing today's topic. Okay, so let's start today's class. So I'll show you some pictures and you just need to observe it, and then need to identify the similarity among the pictures. So let's see the pictures first. Okay, so here I have some pictures, and just observe these pictures and then think and say what is the similarity among the pictures. I think you guessed it right. So you can see that all these animals, they are in their groups. So they are not alone, they are in groups. If you notice the animals, you can see here group of bison, then group of elephants, then here we have group of deers, group of horses, then yes, group of fishes, and also group of birds. But you can see that they are named differently. I mean, the first four, you can say the name is common, so these are the names given to their group. Now bison, the group of bisons, the name given is herd, so we call it herd of bison. Similarly, for group of elephants, it is again herd, so we call herd of elephants. Similarly, for deer, it is herd of deer, and also for horses, it is herd of horses. For fish, in some books you will find it is written as school of fish, and also you can call it shoal of fish. Then for birds, the group of birds are known as flock of birds. So as I told you, these are some of the important keywords like flock, herd, then shoal. So these are the names given to the group of animals. So I hope you got the first type of variation. That means there are animals that like to live in groups, who have groups, and if they have groups, so definitely they will have group leader as well. So we'll discuss some of the leaders of these groups. So let's move to the next slide. Yes, so variation in animal behavior. So we already got familiarized with the first variation, that is animals that live in group. So some animals live in groups, they have leaders for their groups. So animals like deer, horses, wild dogs, bison, elephants, and wolves are some of the examples of animals that live in groups. So we have already seen in the previous slide bison and elephant. You can see here, this is a herd of bison and this is herd of elephants. So they are the animals that live in groups. Some groups like pride of lions has a male as a leader. Now the group of lions is known as what? Pride of lions, and they have a group leader. Since they live in groups, so they have a group leader, and generally the male is the leader of that group. So pride of lion, you find the male members are the generally leader of that group. Then some groups like clan of hyenas. So I already discussed this word in the keywords section, that is clan. So I told you we may come across these keywords. So here we have this word clan. So the group of hyenas is known by what? Clan of hyenas. So clan is the name of the group given to the group of hyenas, and they have a female as a leader. The pride of lions or the group of lions, they have a male as a leader, whereas the clan of hyenas or the group of hyenas, they have a female as their leader. Deer have a separate group for males and separate group for females. Now deer, we have seen already that they also live in group, but they form separate groups for males and females. The babies, they stick with the female, they remain in the female group, and the male group they remain alone. Then some birds and fish also live and travel in groups. So we have discussed the group of fish is known as what? Shoal, or also you can call it school of fish. Quite unusual name, but this is the name given to the group of fish. Okay, so there are also animals who do not live in groups. They live to they like to live alone. So those animals are tiger, leopard, bear. There are other examples as well. So these are some of the animals that do not live in groups. Then certain animals they have a different characteristics altogether. They like to mark their areas, so that is called area marking. So animals protect the area they live in. So some animals they like to mark their area so that other animals do not enter in their territory. So a few of such animals are like dogs and leopards. Now here you can see dogs urinate to mark their area. So they urinate to mark their areas so that other dogs they do not come in their territories. Then similarly leopards mark by rubbing themselves against the plants in that particular area. So both of them has a different way of marking their areas. So what is different in both of them? Even though they carry out the same task, they mark the areas, but they have different way. Dogs they urinate to mark their area, whereas leopards mark by rubbing themselves against the plants or trees in that particular area. So they both of them do what? Area marking, but the way they do the area marking is different from each other. So this is about area marking. Now we'll discuss about some animals that go for hibernation. No, before that we'll discuss about the animals that migrate. Migrate means they move from one place to another. So what are the animals? So these are some of the animals they which migrate from one place to another. We have already discussed about migratory birds in the last chapter about Siberian cranes when we were discussing birds. So once again you can take the same example of Siberian crane. Then also monarch butterfly, they can also move to a far distance. And we have fish like salmon fish, so they too can move very far away. So some birds and animals such as Siberian cranes, monarch butterflies, salmon do not live in the same area throughout the year. So they go from one place to another. So there are different reasons for which they need to move from one place to another, like in search of food, to find their partners, and also to avoid extreme climatic conditions. So the birds like Siberian crane they generally visit India during the winter seasons, because the place like Siberia and Russia it becomes too cold, so that it becomes difficult for the birds to survive in those conditions. So generally these birds they visit to India, and generally they visit in Rajasthan, Bharatpur. The name of the place is Bharatpur. We have already discussed that in the previous chapter, that is in the birds. Then also monarch butterfly, they also like to move far away distances. And similar goes with the fish. From what even though they live in water, so they can cover long distances and they can move to a different place. So these are the animals which do not stick to one place, they like to move throughout the year. So these are known as migratory animals. They migrate from their place of origin. Then we'll discuss about some animals which hibernate. So these are some of the animals that hibernate. Now what is hibernation? Hibernation is a long sleep that animals do during winter season generally. Uh, Generally in the polar regions, the polar bear during the winter extreme climatic conditions they do not get food, so they like to preserve their energy because they don't have food around. So to preserve their energy they like to sleep for several months. So these are some of the animals that go for hibernation when there is shortage of food or when the climate becomes very cold. So these are the animals that hibernate. So please try to remember some of the examples like bats, which is given in your book. Bats, bear. Then we have squirrel. porcupine. So these are some of the animals. Raccoon. Yes, with squirrel we have. These are the squirrel. This is some similar to the squirrel only. So these are some of the animals that go for hibernation. So we have studied some of the factors that make the behavior of animals different from one another. So these are some of the factors which result in the variation in the animal behavior. So let's move to the questions for the day. So what are the questions for the day? First question is, how is a dog different from a leopard in terms of area marking? So we have discussed. Please try to answer this. This will be your home assignment for today. And the second question is, why do some animals hibernate? So I hope you have a fair idea about these questions. So please write down the answer of these questions. I will be checking in the Google Classroom. So that's all for today's class, my dear students. Thank you and have a nice day ahead.